The fire was spreading fast, its furious heat licking at the walls, devouring everything in its path. Thick black smoke curled through the air, filling the corridors, choking out the oxygen. The once grand art building, home to so many performances, dreams, and hard work, was now a blazing inferno. I ran as fast as I could, weaving through the wreckage, my lungs burning with every breath. The exit was so close. Just a few more steps and I would be safe. I should have made it. But then he grabbed me. Liam, my trusted teammate, my dance partner, the person I had spent years training beside. His hands closed around my wrist, pulling me back, stopping me in my tracks. My heart slammed against my ribs as I turned to look at him, my eyes wide with confusion. Elena, hold on. His voice was urgent, but his grip was steady, unshaken. It's too dangerous. Let me carry you. The world was falling apart around us, yet Liam's face was calm, his expression unreadable. Before I could protest, he lifted me in his arms, cradling me like I was something delicate, something that needed to be controlled. A chill crawled up my spine. I should have fought harder. I should have struggled. But I didn't, because I trusted him. Liam, I can run, I gasped, pushing against his chest, but he held me tighter. You're exhausted. Let me help you. His tone was soothing, almost hypnotic. But something felt wrong. His grip was too firm, too controlling. I tried to move again, but he wouldn't let me. The stairs leading to the exit were just ahead. Safety. We were almost there. And then, he let go. 1 second I was in his arms. The next I was falling. A scream tore from my throat as gravity yanked me downward. The world blurred, the flickering flames twisting in my vision as my body slammed into the railing. A sickening crack. Pain. Agonizing pain. It exploded through my back, radiating through every nerve, white-hot and unbearable. I felt my body twist unnaturally, my limbs flailing, unable to catch myself. I tumbled down the stairs, hitting step after step, my body nothing more than a ragdoll against the unforgiving concrete. When I finally hit the bottom, the pain was overwhelming. I tried to move. I couldn't. I tried to scream. I couldn't. My legs. I couldn't feel them. Terror crashed into me like a tidal wave. My fingers clawed at the ground, panic clawing at my throat. No, no, no. I lay there, motionless, paralyzed, as Liam's footsteps approached. Slow, careful, deliberate. Through the haze of pain, I saw him kneel beside me. He wasn't panicking. He wasn't shouting for help. He was calm. His fingers brushed my cheek, almost tenderly. Elena, he murmured, his voice so gentle it made me want to scream. He had planned this. I knew it now. The realization was worse than the pain. Worse than the fire consuming the building around us. This wasn't an accident. I gasped for air, my chest heaving. Why? My voice was barely a whisper, weak and broken, just like the rest of me. His expression was mockingly sad, like he pitied me. You were always too perfect, Elena. Too talented. Too loved. He sighed, shaking his head. I couldn't let you keep standing in my way. My stomach twisted. My teammate, my friend, had thrown me away like I was nothing. Like I was an obstacle to be removed. I'll tell them I tried to save you, he said softly, brushing a stray strand of hair from my face. Then he turned away. And he left me there to die. The fire raged on, swallowing the building, swallowing my future. My body was broken. My dreams were shattered. And the one person I had trusted the most had been the one to ruin me. The last thing I saw before darkness consumed me was Liam's retreating figure, walking towards freedom, leaving me behind. The first thing I felt when I woke up was nothing. No pain.
No worms.
No cold. Just emptiness. The second thing I felt was terror. My eyes flickered open to the blinding white ceiling of a hospital room. The sharp scent of antiseptic filled my nostrils, the sterile beeping of the monitors echoing in my ears. My body felt wrong. I tried to move my legs. Nothing. I tried again, harder this time, but there was no response. My heartbeat spiked. My breathing turned shallow, panic creeping in like ice under my skin. I threw the blankets off me, desperate to see. And that's when reality crashed down on me like a wrecking ball. My legs were there. But they weren't mine anymore. I couldn't feel them. I couldn't move them. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. A doctor entered the room, his face carefully blank. but I could see the pity in his eyes. I knew what he was going to say before he even spoke. "Elena," he said gently, stepping closer to my bed. "I need you to stay calm. The injuries you sustained from the fall." He hesitated. "Your spinal cord was severely damaged. You've suffered permanent paralysis from the waist down." My ears rang. The room spun. My stomach lurched and my vision blurred with hot tears. No. No. This couldn't be happening. I had been a dancer, an artist. My body had been my greatest strength, my future. And now it was gone. I forced out a choked whisper, my throat raw. I can't dance anymore." The doctor sighed. "I'm so sorry." My world collapsed. Tears spilled down my cheeks. My hands clenched into fists, nails digging into my palms so hard I thought they would bleed. The reality was crushing, suffocating. I had been betrayed, broken, and discarded like I was nothing. And as I lay there, unable to move, the real betrayal had only just begun. The news spread fast. At first, I thought maybe, just maybe, people would know the truth. That someone would believe me. That someone would stand up and say Liam did this to her. But I had underestimated him. Liam's face was everywhere. The hero. The selfless teammate who had risked his own life to save me, only to watch me fall due to my own panic. The media ate it up. He cried in interviews, his voice breaking as he spoke about how he just wanted to help. "I tried," he sobbed, his face full of manufactured grief. "I just wanted to save her, but she panicked. She struggled. And now, she's blaming me." The world believed him. I sat in my hospital bed, my hands trembling as I scrolled through the online comments. Thousands of people defending him, attacking me. "Ungrateful BTSH. Asterisk. He risked his life for you, and this is how you repay him? She's just bitter because she lost her future. Liam is a hero. You should be thanking him." My stomach twisted. Every post I made, every attempt to tell the truth was deleted, buried under hate. I sent messages to news reporters, tried to get anyone to listen. But no one cared. Liam was on his way to our dream university with a full scholarship and nationwide fame. He took everything. And I was left in a hospital bed, paralyzed, hated, and forgotten. Days turned to weeks. I refused visitors. I refused to see anyone. My parents came in every day, their faces filled with disappointment and pity. They wanted me to just accept it. Accept the lies. Accept the death of my dreams. I sank into darkness. Every day was the same: wake up, stare at the ceiling, listen to the world celebrate Liam while my name became nothing more than a punchline. I stopped eating, stopped trying. And then one night, as I lay in my hospital bed, the weight of everything crushing me, I made a decision. I couldn't live like this anymore. I waited until the halls were quiet, until the nurses had finished their rounds. Then, with nothing but the strength in my arms, I dragged myself out of bed. My useless legs dragged behind me, heavy and lifeless. The cold floor scraped against my palms as I pulled myself toward the window. I climbed inch by inch until I reached the ledge. The city stretched out below me, the night air biting against my skin. I closed my eyes, and I let go. I was falling. The wind rushed past me, cold and relentless, as the city lights blurred below. The weight of my body felt light, almost as if I were floating, freed from the chains that had bound me for so long. But as I hit the darkness, expecting nothingness, I woke up. My lungs gasped for air. My body jerked as if it had been pulled from the depths of an endless abyss. My heart pounded so violently I could feel it in my throat. I wasn't dead. I was somewhere else. Thick smoke filled my lungs, the heat pressing down on me. The crackling of flames echoed through the walls, mixed with the distant screams of panicked students. I felt the vibrations of footsteps, dozens, no hundreds of them, rushing toward safety. The fire. My eyes flew open. I was back in the art building. My body wasn't broken. My legs, I could move them. My arms weren't weak, my spine wasn't shattered. And I wasn't trapped in that cold, suffocating hospital bed. I was here. Before it happened. It took me a moment to process what was happening. I was reborn, given a second chance. And then I heard his voice. "Elena, what are you dazing for? The building is on fire. Run." I turned my head and there he was, Liam. Standing before me, the same panic-stricken face, the same outstretched hand. His voice was urgent, but his eyes weren't afraid. Because he already knew what he was going to do. Everything crashed back into me like a tidal wave. The betrayal, the lies, the fall, the paralysis, the hatred, the pain. The memories poured into my mind with crystal clarity. This was the moment when I had trusted him. The moment I had let him carry me toward my doom. Not this time. I inhaled sharply, my fingers tightening into fists. The smoke burned my lungs, but it wasn't enough to cloud my mind. This time I knew exactly who Liam was. And I wasn't going to be his victim again. Elena. He stepped forward, pretending to be the same loyal partner he had always claimed to be. Come on. The eastern stairs are too crowded. We have to take the west side. I looked at his outstretched hand. In my past life I had trusted him. I had let him take me down those stairs, where he had dropped me, left me to break, to shatter, to burn. I had been so blind. This time, I smiled. Liam faltered slightly, probably surprised that I wasn't acting like the panicked girl he remembered. I could see the faintest flicker of uncertainty in his expression, but I played along. I placed my hand in his, squeezing it just a little too tightly as I whispered, "Okay." His grip tightened around mine, and just like before, he led me toward the western stairs. But what he didn't know was that this time I was leading him. The smoke was thicker now, curling through the air, suffocating everything in its path. Flames licked at the ceiling, crawling like hungry beasts, their glow casting eerie shadows on the walls. Liam's grip on my hand was firm. He was in control, or so he thought. We reached the stairs, and just like before, the space was empty. No witnesses. No cameras. No one to see what was about to happen. He was going to do it now. He was going to drop me. I could feel it in the tension of his muscles, the way his fingers shifted, preparing to let go. I let him think he had won. I allowed him to believe that history was about to repeat itself. And then I moved first. With a sharp twist of my wrist, I yanked him forward, using his own momentum against him. His eyes widened in shock as his body lurched forward, his balance gone. What? I shoved him. Liam fell. His body tumbled down the stairs, hitting step after step, his screams mixing with the sound of bone cracking against concrete. He slammed into the landing below. His body twisted unnaturally. His breathing was ragged, his fingers twitching as if trying to grasp onto something, anything. I stepped forward slowly, looking down at him. The fire raged around us, the heat curling against my skin, but I didn't feel it. All I felt was satisfaction. Liam's eyes were filled with raw terror. He was trying to move, trying to crawl away. But he couldn't, because he was broken, just like he had once broken me. Elena, he rasped, blood trickling from the corner of his lips. His voice trembled, filled with fear. I crouched beside him, tilting my head, watching the way his body shook in pain. His perfect golden life had just shattered. His body, his precious body, the one that had carried him to success, to fame, to the future he had stolen from me, was now useless. He wasn't a dancer anymore. He wasn't anything anymore. I leaned closer, my voice soft, but filled with cold satisfaction. Do you know how many steel rods have to be implanted in your spine when it's broken? Liam's lips trembled. He shook his head. I smiled. Don't worry. You'll find out. A choked sob escaped his throat, his fingers clawing at the ground, his body trembling. This time he knew. He knew what was coming. And it terrified him. The fire was spreading fast. The sirens outside were growing louder. People would be rushing in soon. I could have left him there. I could have let him burn. But that would have been too easy. Instead, I reached down and grabbed his bloodied wrist, dragging him toward the exit. My movements were deliberate, slow enough for the cameras to catch me, for everyone to see. Because this time I was the hero. And Liam? He was the one who needed saving. The moment we burst through the fire exit, gasping for air, the world exploded around us. Sirens blared, fire trucks and ambulances lined the street, their red and blue lights flashing wildly against the thick smoke billowing from the building. The crowd was massive, students, teachers, reporters, everyone watching with bated breath as I dragged Liam's broken body into the open. I stumbled forward, my body trembling, blood smeared across my arms and face. I let my breathing hitch, let my eyes widen in what could only be described as raw terror. I looked exactly like a girl who had just survived hell. And the world believed it. Elena, you're alive. A voice called, but I barely registered it. I had one goal left. Liam. I dropped his wrist, letting his lifeless body collapse onto the pavement. His skin was pale, his fingers twitching, his breath shallow. His once perfectly structured posture, the posture of a dancer, a star, was now bent and broken, just like my body had been. And yet, the moment his mother pushed past the crowd, the moment she laid eyes on him, her screams pierced the air. Liam! My baby! She shrieked, falling to her knees beside him, her hands shaking as she reached out to touch him. The perfect son she had always worshipped, the one she had once bragged about, the one she had said was destined for greatness, was lying helpless, his limbs motionless, his spine ruined. I had waited for this moment, but the real show was just beginning. The reporters descended. Cameras flashed, microphones were shoved toward my face, the voices overlapping in a chaotic frenzy. Elena, what happened inside? You saved Liam. How did you manage it? Were you two trapped together? Perfect. I let my lips tremble as I stared down at Liam, my hands clenched into weak, shaking fists. I could feel the eyes of hundreds of people locked on me, watching, waiting. I did what he had once done to me. I made myself the victim. Tears welled in my eyes as I let my voice crack. I tried. I whispered, my breath hitching as if I were barely holding it together. I just wanted to get us both out. But Liam was hurt. I didn't know if I could do it. The reporters ate it up. The crowd softened. I saw pity, admiration. The same things that had once been handed to Liam so easily were now being given to me. I gasped for air, pressing a hand against my chest as if I were about to break down. He kept telling me to go, to save myself. But I couldn't leave him behind. My voice cracked, perfectly timed. People visibly flinched. Some wiped away tears. The story was being rewritten right in front of them. Liam's mother's face contorted in horror as she realized what was happening. No, that's not what happened. Elena did something. She had to have. She screamed, her voice desperate, wild. Liam would never, he's the hero. But the cameras weren't on her. They were on me. They were on the injured girl who had just risked her life to save someone else. Liam's mother lunged toward me, grabbing my arm, her nails digging into my skin. You liar! She shrieked, shaking me violently. What did you do to my son? The crowd reacted immediately. People pushed forward, pulling her away from me as the reporters shouted in outrage. Mrs. Taylor, please step back. This girl just survived a fire. She's in shock. What are you implying? She risked her life to pull him from the building. Liam's mother froze. She knew. She knew she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. She had just proven to everyone that she wasn't a grieving mother. She was an unstable one. A woman who was lashing out at the girl who had just saved her son's life. The moment I saw the disgusted looks from the crowd, I knew it. I had won. Liam didn't wake up for 2 days. When he did, he was met with silence. There were no cameras, no news outlets waiting outside his room to celebrate him as a hero. There was just nothing. His mother was gone. His friends were gone. No one was celebrating him anymore. And when he tried to move, nothing happened. His legs didn't work. Panic set in. He tried again, harder this time, but the truth had already sunk in, deep and suffocating. His spine was shattered. His dream was over. For the first time in his life, Liam had lost. And I made sure that the first person he saw when he woke up was me. I walked into his room, my heels clicking against the floor, my posture perfectly poised. He turned his head, his eyes burning with fear and fury. I let my lips curl into a slow, satisfied smile. Hello, Liam. His fingers twitched, his jaw clenched so hard I thought his teeth might crack. Elena, he spat, his voice weak, nothing like the man he used to be. I stepped closer, tilting my head. Do you know how many steel rods they put in your back when your spine shatters? His face paled. I leaned in, lowering my voice to a whisper. Do you know what it feels like to have the world turn against you? To have people call you a liar while you lose everything you've ever worked for? His throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. I placed a hand on his shoulder, my nails digging in slightly. You do now. His breathing grew ragged, his body trembling beneath the hospital sheets. This was justice. This was what he deserved. I leaned even closer, so only he could hear my final words before I walked away forever. I just wanted you to experience what I went through, Liam. I smiled. And I think I did a pretty good job. And then I left him there. Alone. Broken. Forgotten. Just like he had left me. Liam had always been the golden boy. The one who charmed his way through life, who took what he wanted without consequences. But now he was nothing. The hospital room was cold, the white walls closing in around him. The rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor was the only sound that filled the empty space. No friends. No reporters. No future. He tried to move again, tried to sit up, but his legs remained motionless. A lump formed in his throat. This isn't happening. It had been weeks since the fire. Weeks since Elena had walked out of his life forever, leaving him a shell of the man he once was. The doctors had been blunt. His spine was permanently damaged. No amount of rehab would bring him back to the life he once had. No more dancing. No more future. No more Liam Taylor, the rising star. And the worst part? No one cared. The world had moved on. The media no longer talked about the brave student who risked his life. Instead, Elena's story had taken over. She was the survivor, the hero, the symbol of resilience. And he was just another forgotten name. Desperation clawed at his chest as he stared at his phone, scrolling through the news articles, the posts, the thousands of comments. Everyone loved her. She stole everything from me. His jaw clenched. His hands trembled. No, this wasn't how his story was supposed to end. He could fix this. He had always been able to talk his way out of anything. If he could just get to her, if he could just make her see reason, she would forgive him. She always forgave him. So Liam did the only thing he could. He called her. Elena stood on the balcony of her new apartment, the city stretching out before her. The air was crisp, the lights of the skyline twinkling like stars. For the first time in years she felt free. Her past no longer had a hold on her. The fear, the pain, the betrayal, it was all behind her now. She had spent so much of her life thinking she needed validation, that she needed people to recognize her worth. But the truth? She had never needed anyone's approval. Her phone buzzed on the railing beside her. She reached for it absently, but the moment she saw the name on the screen, her blood ran cold. Liam. She hadn't spoken to him since the hospital. Since she had watched the realization dawn in his eyes that he had finally lost. A part of her considered ignoring it. But another part, the part that wanted to finish this for good, decided to answer. She held the phone to her ear, her voice steady. What do you want, Liam? A sharp breath on the other end. Weak. Desperate. Elena. His voice was barely a whisper, broken, nothing like the man she used to know. Please. I need to see you. I need to talk to you. She let the silence stretch, letting him squirm. You need me, she repeated, the words like ice on her tongue. Liam swallowed hard. I made a mistake. His voice cracked. I don't know what to do anymore. I have nothing, Elena. No one. Everyone left. You're the only one who understands. Please. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. He still thought he could manipulate her, still thought she was the same naive girl who would run to him at the first sign of weakness. She wasn't. You want my help? She said, her voice dangerously soft. Yes. His relief was palpable. Yes, please, Elena, I just need a second chance. A second chance. The irony nearly made her laugh. You mean like the one you gave me? She asked. Silence. Elena gripped the railing, looking out at the city. She had already won. She didn't need revenge anymore. His life was already in ruins. And she didn't need him anymore. Liam, she said quietly, you once told me I was too perfect, too talented, that I stood in your way. She smiled, a soft, cold thing. You were right. Another sharp inhale. Elena. This is me standing in your way one last time. And then she hung up. For the first time in her life, she felt nothing for him. No hatred. No regret. Just peace. She stared at the phone for a moment. Then slowly, she deleted his number. Liam Taylor was just a distant memory now. A part of her old life, one that she had no intention of carrying with her. She turned back toward her apartment, toward her new future, toward the life she had built for herself. She didn't need revenge anymore, because she had already won. And as she walked away, she never looked back.